When people think about World War II, they often connect it with the Third Reich and the cruel human experiments and terror done by the SS. But not everyone knows about the dark side of Japan, especially the horrors and cruelty of their Unit 731, including vivisection while still alive, undercooling experiments, and germ warfare. As for that, we took this topic for our final exam paper, and now we created this video. Thanks for watching and enjoy.
The Unit 731, also known as the Nana Sanichi Butai, was the main force of scientific researchers that had been chosen by their high and mighty ruler, Hirohito himself. The unit was formed in the year 1932 and had been put under the lead of the General Lieutenant Ishishiro, who also was a great scientist himself. Ishishiro's first base was built in the outer circles of Harbin, which is the capital city of the province Heilongjiang in China. This base was called the Sogma Fortress and it was ginormous. But unfortunately for them, some of the war prisoners who were kept there could escape, and so the building had to be destroyed with all the evidence in it. So Ishishiro told his men to pack up and move their stuff to another district of the city. The new base was located in Pingfang, which was close to Harbin. Since Ishishiro did not want to have any further problems in the future, he decided to build up a couple of side establishments. These were located in the following spots: Lingkou, Sunio, and Halar. In the year 1936, the name for every single laboratory he created became officially known as Unit 731, and that's how they were founded.
Unit 731 should be known as one of the most notorious and brutal groups of all time, because of the fact that almost every victim of Unit 731 died in the most brutal ways while still alive. Sometimes they were left with gruesome injuries, but at the end they were used for further experiments, and then finally, but sadly, they were killed by the unit. Most of their victims were Chinese innocent people that were took from the region of Manchuria in China. They also performed their experiments on Mongolian, Korean, Soviet Russian, and even on some captured American soldiers. One of their experiments they performed regularly was shooting, bombing, or stabbing their victims while still alive and tied to a wooden bar, just to see how their weapons would affect the human body. In some testimonies from former members of the unit, even the testing of flamethrowers were mentioned. Before we go much further into the experiments, I have to mention that their prisoners were simply referred to a piece of wood. To be exactly, they called them logs, or how they would say in Japanese, Maruda. This doesn't just refer to their inhumanity, but also it was used as a cover-up for the villagers. They also told them that their complex was a water purifier, so that the truth about the gruesome reality in there never came out of their main base in Harbin, China. Referring to never came out, I have to tell you that really no one that was captured or took by them made it out alive of this complex. Another experiment they made with their prisoners were undercooling experiments. The official Unit 731 museum website, unit731.org, can tell us more about this. Prisoners were taken outside just for them to see how long a human could survive in the cold. So, as mentioned before, prisoners were taken outside and cold water was often thrown at them. The soldiers would sometimes knock with a wood stick at the prisoner's arm. They say, when they heard a sound that was similar to wood knocking on wood, they knew the arm was totally frozen. Afterwards, they tried to find out how to treat the freeze burn the best way possible. Or sometimes, they just left them alone to see how they would handle it by themselves. These informations come from an interview of a former member of Unit 731 that was given to the New York Times in the year 1995. One of their main experiments had to do with multiple diseases. And when I say multiple, I mean that. Such as the plague, also known in the medieval times as the Black Death. Then anthrax, typhoid pathogen, and even syphilis. For that type of experiment, they would keep the prisoners in a really healthy condition. But then, they infected them with one of the mentioned diseases, for example, anthrax. After a while, they would take them into their vivisection room, where most of them never made it out alive, and were not even put in anesthesia, and cut open while they were still living and breathing. Because the doctors wanted to take samples that were as fresh as possible, so they could do their research. There were horrible stories told by former members of the unit in their testimonies. It would be too much information to cover in this video.
Moving on to the other dark story of Japan, and it's called Comfort Woman. It comes from the sexual slavery in the Japanese military during the World War II. It's about girls and women. Most of them were located in Korea or Taiwan, but also in Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines and China. The name was created around 1932 to 1945 in Asia. Comfort women were mainly women and girls forced into sexual slavery by the Imperial Japanese Army in occupied countries and territories before and during World War II, or who participated in the earlier program of voluntary prostitution. And here we come to the end. I hope you liked our little report, and I hope that you were able to learn something from it, because as we know, not many people knew about the dark side of Japan.